are listening to Pub Royalty Queen Podcast, a place to empower women of color in the music business. Welcome back to another episode of Pub Royalty Queen Podcast. This is your host, Janisha Jones, back with another special guest. This time we have Dre Wallace. Dre is CEO of OPNR, an entertainment marketplace, removing the time and friction associated with talent booking for live performances and enabling ticket sales. I've had the pleasure of connecting with Dre as we're both women of color in music tech. She just exudes big boss energy, so I knew I had to have her on the show. So without further ado, welcome Dre to Pub Royalty Queen Podcast. How are you feeling today?
Thank you for having me. I'm feeling pretty good. It's almost the weekend, so I'm excited.
Thank goodness. I'm so ready for the weekend.
Yes.
And I'm just so grateful to have you on the show. We are new acquaintances, but I feel like I found a soul sister, another woman of color in tech. We need to band together. So I know that this is definitely going to be a treat for our listeners. So let's just go ahead and dive right in.
Yeah, sure.
Tell us about your journey through the music industry and what roles led up to you becoming CEO of OPNR.
Yeah, so the journey has been long. Actually, I've been playing music myself since I was like 4. Started playing the piano a long time ago. My mom is a really good classical pianist, so she taught both my brother and I when we were kids. After that, I joined like band in elementary school for the first time in 3rd grade. Started playing the saxophone. That was my main instrument all the way through elementary, junior high, high school. Joined the symphony in junior high, started playing violin in the symphony. Then I played drums in a rock band. I played the guitar in a rock band.
Wow.
And then also studied music in college and really just kind of like, I just loved music and made music, that whole time. I was in concert band, jazz band, marching band, symphony, all the bands. So
Wow.
yeah, I was in it. I just really loved music. Like that was definitely my thing. And, this whole time kind of making music, it wasn't until like some of my friends were like, they were like, you should play this music out like that you make. Cause I was making electronic music, but didn't really know what it was. But my family's from Detroit. So that had a huge influence, like without even really knowing it, on the kinds of music that I liked. Like I loved house music, loved like Detroit techno and stuff. So yeah, so I ended up buying 2 turntables off of Craigslist.
As you do.
And literally bought some DVDs. And that's how I taught myself how to DJ. Like there was this How to DJ 101. It was like a DVD series by DJ Shorty. Shout out to DJ Shorty. She's fabulous. But yeah, that's literally how I taught myself how to DJ. And then I started throwing parties myself and then started opening like for larger DJs and bigger acts, and happened to open for an act called Bass Nectar. Ended up on tour with them like a couple months later, and that tour turned into a whole bunch of other tours and so on and so forth. And then I had a booking agent and a management agency, and all this stuff kind of transpired kind of quickly, really. And so, but also at the same time, in parallel, I had finished college and I started working in tech. Like my first job out of school, I started as like a project manager at a software engineering company. And I learned development actually on that job. And so like, I was working remote and could actually like work remote and be on tour at the same time. And that was pretty much like how my life was for like a solid, probably like 6-7 years. So
that is incredible. Like, so first of all, multifaceted, you're classically trained, but you've also taught yourself how to DJ. There's also, I'm grateful to see that like dance and house music are making its way into culture. So it's good to see that you kind of like, you had already been introduced to it. So you're like way ahead of the game in that regard. And having experience in touring. And then in the tech division, it's kind of crazy that you have your hands in all of these different areas. So well done.
That's very crazy. Weird mix. I still don't know how it happened, but it happened.
Thank goodness. Because we need to get more of us in those spaces. So it's good to see someone represented there. Did you have mentorship in the music arena, and how crucial is mentorship?
Like, no, I did not.
Okay.
Literally, I can tell you, I basically figured out stuff on my own.
Mhm.
I read lots of blogs, I read books, but
Mhm.
truthfully, like the business parts of it, it's like you don't know what you don't know, like I knew enough. I think like having like so my undergrad is actually in business and in music.
Okay.
I had a decent handle on like just general business operations and stuff like that, which definitely
Mhm.
helped me like throughout the DJing, especially that first part, I think, of my career. But in terms of like really understanding the music business, like the
Mhm.
business side of music, I would say that probably that first tour that I went on, that was kind of when it was like the light bulb went on because and I think that that's actually a really good way. People always ask me like, well, how can I learn, like more about the music industry? Like try to
Mhm.
go on a tour with someone like because
Mhm. Okay.
it
Task
makes
force.
yeah, it like you see everything kind of happening like all at once. Like you kind of understand where the money is going. You understand like the difference between the recorded side and the live side. And the live side is massive, and there are very few of us over there. So like it just like you
Exactly.
start to see where the money is going and the kinds of jobs that are even available, different careers and stuff, because there are tons of them and so many that people just have no idea like that these
Big
jobs
one.
even exist. Yeah.
It's a
So it was
fact.
that to me was the most eye-opening thing, I think, was going on that tour for the first time. Like you could see it all and like who the big players were and stuff.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, to your point, there are so many jobs on the back end that people are just not aware of. So the fact that you kind of got exposure to that, pretty early, I think that's amazing. Also, mentorship in my study shows that mentorship can actually increase your bottom line by $40,000 over the span of your career. So
Mhm.
not having a mentor actually directly impacts your take home
Oh,
pay.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I encourage people to find mentors if they don't have one. My organization, Juke Joint Foundation, we match mentors and mentees who are members of the platform because we do understand that, having access to someone with experience can lend itself to you not only gaining feedback on your work, but also allowing you to see other opportunities for
Yeah.
advancement in this business. So it's you're in good company though, because the majority of women of color in the music business do not have mentors. So,
Yeah.
you
Yeah. It's
know,
like I've got some now, but
yeah,
then it was literally like kind of trial by fire,
yeah,
and I like thankfully I'm glad that like I did kind of have like some of that business training because like a lot of other people that I knew like really messed themselves up like with contracts and stuff. So I at
mhm,
least knew enough to be on top of certain things, but
yeah.
it's really, really easy to get messed up.
Facts. It's felt like that by design, right? Like it
Yeah,
doesn't,
yeah,
but behooves these companies to be very like convoluted when it comes to
yeah,
contracts
yeah.
and
Lots
terms.
of gatekeeping and all that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So there's so many challenges that are unique to women of color in the music business. Can you describe one specific challenge that you may have had to overcome?
I mean, honestly, it's probably, I don't even know that it's specific to the music business. It's probably just specific to, it's probably
Right.
just specific to living in America in general, or just specific to business. It's just that, and I think especially on the live side, you just are often like the only one. I
Right.
think that was kind of surprising to me. Like, I guess I just kind of assumed like when you hit the road, like, oh yeah, like you're stopping at like 20 25 venues, like you just sort of assume that like you're going to see all this like diversity, because I think most people naturally think of diversity when they think of the music industry, but
Yeah.
like it really isn't that diverse like on the business side, and I think on the live side like it's really not that diverse. So I think that just kind of caught me off guard. Like I just was sort of thinking I would see lots of women period everywhere, and like there really weren't. And I just really thought I would just see more people of color in general. Like there were like couple tours that I was on where it was like basically the only other people of color that I even saw would be like security at the venue. Like
That's
that was pretty much it. Like,
crazy.
so yeah, it was just a really interesting thing that I kind of didn't expect.
That's crazy. I mean, but it's like that's part of the course, like you said, being a person of color in any industry, you're completely isolated until they start to really be deliberate about hiring more diverse groups of people.
Yeah.
Um, so it's unfortunate, but there's the other side of it too, where there's this responsibility or expectation to like outperform the next person because you're kind of like tokenized in that way,
Yeah.
right?
Got to be
So
perfect. Got to be 10 times as good to get half a
exactly.
star. Like,
So, that's it's just an uncomfortable place to be in general, but we push through, we triumph out here
oh
one day
yeah.
at a time, one step at a time.
Yep.
What was your mama I made it moment where you realized you were headed in the right direction? And what do you attribute to having reached that point?
I think probably just like I would say like probably like the biggest festival that I played, and it was like also it would just happen to be in Michigan, so it was like also hometown crowd, like when I played at Electric Forest, because it was like wow, like I'm at this like huge stage, and all my friends like look literally you would look out in the crowd, and it was like so many of my friends were there, like so
Mhm.
many people like from Detroit were there and from Grand Rapids were there. So it was just like
Cool.
it was just like this like wow, this is weird. Like it's like not only did you make it to this point, but like all my people can see me at this point. And a lot of
Yeah,
times like when you hit those points like you're somewhere else, somewhere way farther away from home.
right.
So like people don't necessarily get to like celebrate that with you, and like participate in that. And that was just like it was just like a really cool thing that it was also like where the venue is literally like 10 minutes from where my mom grew up, So it was just like, yeah, it was pretty
350
crazy.
moment. And
Yeah.
that's funny because when I ask this question, a lot of my guests, they kind of respond in kind that their mama I made it moment was when their family actually acknowledged what it was that
Yeah.
we were doing and like to be able to participate in it,
Because they
like
usually don't get what you're doing for so
exactly.
long. Like that's like so many people like I think like my parents didn't really get it until it was like they could see like and they're just like, oh my gosh, like people know who you are. Like it was kind of like because to them they're you're their kids. So it's like
Yes,
they watched you
yes,
grow up, and yes, they're proud of you and think you're special and stuff, but it's not until they're like, oh my gosh, like other people think you're
yeah.
special. And a lot of people like this is really weird. Like, so it's kind of a weird moment for everybody. But
That's an interesting question. I've
yeah.
never asked this before, but I think this is the first time that you've been actually on both sides, like as a performer and as a executive. Like, I'm curious, how do you deal with like fandom? How do you deal with, that
Yeah.
newfound like people know who you are out here in the streets?
I don't honestly, I think now it used to like really weird me out. Like it would be like I go out to dinner, like with friends or whatever, and like people would like legit interrupt us and stuff. Like it was nothing.
Wow.
And like
Wow.
it never really bothered me. Like I was like, I think it's cool that anyone even cares enough to go like because you don't look at yourself like that ever. Like I never so I always thought it was just like weird, but like sometimes it'd be annoying, like to my friends or whatever. They're like, God, like can't go anywhere. Like, but
Gotta
yeah,
be right now.
it's weird. It can be
Yeah.
weird, but like I don't mind it because it's not ever in a way that's like it doesn't feel
Disrespectful.
invasive to me. It just feels like, especially like again, like in Michigan, where a lot of people knew me like from growing up here, they really just want to celebrate it with you. Like
Yeah.
they'll be like,
Oh,
yeah, I knew her, so
I love
which is
it.
cool. Yeah.
So this is a podcast where we give each other our flowers because I feel like in this industry, we're just like one project to the next. It's very hard to just sit down with your accomplishments and take it all in. So I just want to let you know, we see you out here, sis. You're doing your thing. I'm
Thank
so
you.
proud of
Back
you.
at you. Back at you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
It's like it's an iron sharpens iron thing because I learned a lot from you. And ever since we met, it's only ever been like warm energy and welcoming
Yeah.
from you. And so even like at South by Southwest, we finally got a chance to reconvene.
Yeah, I was looking for you. I was
You
like,
know?
I know you're somewhere.
But the support really meant a lot to me. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to, let you know that we see you, I see you, and I'm so excited for what's to come for Dre. So
Thank you. Thank you.
what advice would you give what advice would you give aspiring women of color in the music business? What would you have told yourself coming into the industry?
I think just like it's like keep going, and like whatever you want to do, make a spot for yourself. Like, people aren't going to give it to you for most likely. And if they do give it to you, it might not be the spot you want. So like, yeah, like it really is just like, and it's also just like just do it, like I feel like for me, there's never any time like the present, and like
Bars.
nobody can really hold you back. To me, like yourself can hold you back. So like if you really want something, I think like just go after it. It's like so no one might give you the seat, but you can like make this chair and you
That's
can push the chair up to the table and sit down in the chair and like make your own spot, really carve out, your own space, because a lot of times there aren't necessarily specific roles like where we might fit. I know I kind of ran into that. I didn't, traditionally enter into, working for a label or working for, like a specific company or anything. I was just kind of like, okay, this is the stuff I'm good at. I kind of want to do something like this. So you just like, you make it up. Like, this is what I'm good at. So I'm going to do that.
Yeah. I think
yeah.
that is such a major key that, like, first of all, believe in yourself, but also kind of just like lean into your specific skill set and the things that you're interested in and kind of exploring a multitude of different things. And there is no formula.
Yeah, there really isn't. There really isn't. And authenticity, like, it really does shine through. Like, when you really love something, it's so easy for other people to see it. Like, you can't really fake it.
Yeah, no.
Like when you really want something like that, like everybody's gonna know. Like,
passion speaks volumes.
yeah.
So, and I wish there were some more like educational aspects to like learning how to market yourself as well. Because once you do have that passion, how do you express that to the world, right? Like, how do you, make sure that your business is aligned and that, as you're going about the world and making your connections and building your brand, that it's consistent. Like,
yeah. And like meeting the right people and all that too, like definitely makes a huge difference.
Exactly. If there was one thing that you could have done differently in regards to pursuing your career, what would that have been?
Probably just that I would have started stuff sooner. I think I did, like, that's why I was like, just go ahead and do it, because I waited a little bit because I was like, I'm not sure if I'm ready, or like, I don't know if I know what I think I need to know, like that kind of stuff. And granted, I didn't wait that long, but still, like, I think if I had done it like, boom, like immediately, like I just like nothing would be different, but I'd be farther along is all, So like I definitely think that like I said, like seizing the moment, like seizing the day. Yeah, like when you feel it, like might as well just go ahead and do it. All you're gonna do is overthink it if you wait. So
facts. Time is limited, it's a commodity. And again, like kind of moving with intention, like especially as you get older, because there's a lot of pressure on women to meet certain benchmarks and by a certain time. Right? Especially if you're like a overachiever too, like there are certain things that you want to accomplish just for your own, sense of self-worth and value. But everyone has their own journey at the same time, right? Like that's the ebb and flow of life. So yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying. What are some common misconceptions that people have about women of color?
I guess I don't even know, I think like probably just, probably just the typical stuff that I think people just think about Black women in general. Like sometimes people think we're mean, which is crazy to me because like I feel like we're all fun, like all the time. But
whole mood, we're a whole mood.
Stuff like that. But like, yeah, truthfully, I think it's like I would say probably just like the underestimation is like really more than anything, or just like assuming that we can't do it because they haven't seen someone like us do it before, like that kind of thing. But yeah, other than that, I'm like, I guess they're other people's misconceptions, so I kind of
That's
don't
a
care.
fact.
But
And I love that approach too. Like,
yeah, I'm like, oh, that's your problem to
right?
think about, not mine.
But that's it. The only reason why for me it is an issue is because it directly impacts like your
Yeah.
livelihood at the end of
Oh yeah, yeah,
how we're represented in the media, for instance. Like if there's a certain narrative that's being
yeah,
pushed out there about women of color, then that plays out subconsciously in the boardroom and how people treat you and microaggressions and to your point, underestimation and
yeah,
being discredited and all these things that kind of go into, how people react to the narratives out there. So
yeah,
it is unfortunate. I hope that we can get more into these spaces so we can create a more accurate representation, because what I'm seeing is
yeah.
like we're not a monolith, we're not a monolith. It's
Definitely not. Like all you have to do is visit one HBCU to see like the broad, wide spectrum that there is like of
exactly,
Black people. It really is like you're gonna find the hippies, you're gonna find the jocks, you find the same personalities that you find in literally any culture, just
exactly,
different flavor of it, you know? So
exactly.
yeah, we're definitely not all the same. Everybody's totally different. And there are certainly some things that tie us together, but
Mhm.
everybody's got their own thing.
Former guests also mentioned the fact that like because they only see us in a certain light, they being just like the system in
Yeah.
general, any particular person or group, but they'll place us in like the heads of urban music and
Oh
not
my
realize that
gosh.
we have,
The fact that it's even called urban music, just
right?
like
It's cringy,
gag, like why? Like
so cringe,
urban music.
right?
Because we only live in urban areas, like I
Right.
guess. I grew up in the country, so okay.
Right. That's the part too that I'm trying to kind of like dismantle that whole like just bias. I want to just put more of us in the forefront so people can see we can do country, we can do pop. In fact, like those
Yeah.
other genres also derive from our culture. Like,
Yeah, like we do literally like do all those things. Like Black music was like the foundation of like all of that stuff. So you will see us in literally all genres, of music. So like why are we relegated to only like being focused on like this one specific lane, you know?
exactly. So we just got to do a better job at like being consistent with that. Also, like when we're going
Yeah.
applying for jobs, and if we see that the word urban or hip hop and rap is attached to it, don't be so quick to jump on that.
Yeah.
It's
There's
not
other
necessarily
stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
another way to tokenize people. And what ways can women of color advocate for each other in this competitive field? How do you advocate for other women?
Yeah, I think it's like it's honestly a lot of stuff like this. Just,
Mhm.
sharing information, I think is a huge one. Like when you find out something and I find out something and I'm like, hey, like you should think about, this thing or this program, or I
Mhm.
know so and so who does this, like you should meet them, like making intros and stuff like that. It's the same thing that everyone else does,
Yeah,
basically. So it's like being in, I think having an open and sharing attitude or whatever, like I truly
yeah,
believe that like, rising tide, lifts all boats and stuff. So I'm always about like whatever someone needs. I'm like, if you call me and if it's something I can do, like I'll do it, if it's
yes.
somebody I know that I can intro, like I will absolutely do it. If I don't know, I will ask somebody who does know to make sure
Right.
that, people get what they need. I think that's really, really important. So like we have to have each other's back, be supportive. So
Amen. That is a major key. I feel like you've only ever been that way, like super approachable. I remember the first time I met you was at Music
yeah.
Tech, and UMG had a bit of an activation for their conference. And I was like, this is the only other Black person in the room. Like, I gotta meet her.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, like I've been trying to find more of us, and but that's kind of like the camaraderie that I think we need to start being more approachable and
Yep.
more like you said, just lifting each other up in ways that we can, so I
Yeah.
just appreciate that. So anyway, I just want to say thank you so much, Dre, because you've been such a light, like, even though we just started our friendship, I feel like this is going to be a long lasting one. And
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I appreciate just like being able to watch how you walk the room, move around the room, and like how you interact with people and how you promote your business and all those things is just really insightful and inspiring to me. So just thank you so much for being on the show. What can we expect from Dre in the future? What are you excited about right now?
Yeah, I mean, mostly, like business-wise for Opener, lots of cool stuff coming up. We're actually working right now on a co-branded tour. I won't say who it's with, but co-branded tour that's going to launch later on this year. That's going to be a pretty integral part to some like go-to-market stuff that we're going to be doing. So you'll see us like have specific focus on entering some markets where we have like decent penetration, but like really getting in there on some of those. So you'll see a lot of that being talked about probably this summer, because that's set to happen later on this fall. Yeah. And like really just like growing the team and yeah, just like keep pushing forward. So
if there's anything we can do on the Fresh and Sassy side to promote what you're doing or to cross collaborate, please let's go for it. I know for one, like you have an amazing platform. Live touring again is something that not many of us are in. So I think our Juke Joint members would definitely benefit from having some kind of like tutorial.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And we
that
can set up like a webinar or something like that. Yeah. And get that going. Yeah.
Yeah. Just so they know there's other things out there for them.
Yes.
Tools that they can use. And so where can people find you if they want to connect?
Sure. Yeah. So you can find our platform at openermusic.com. It's free to sign up right now. It won't be free forever, but it's free right now. So definitely visit that. And then as far as like social media, you can find me on LinkedIn. If you're looking for me, my full government name is Dre Wallace. So you can just look for me there. And if you want to find me on IG, where all the fun is at, my handle is Super Drizzy. It's SUPERDRIZZY. And all of our social handles for Opener are all Opener Music. So.
And it's spelled OPNR.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for clarifying. Yes. Spelled OPNR.
Well, I definitely, again, I just appreciate you for being here, and I look forward to our continued sistership. Let's continue to move forward, and congratulations. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much too. I appreciate you.
Until next time.
Remember, stay positive, inspired, and true to yourself. Go out there and kill it. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time on Pub Royalty Queen Podcast.